Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to the No DQ live recap of AEW Dynamite, as well as a very eventful NXT episode. The date April 8th. I still think I'm in March. That's how long March was. April, and it's actually April 8th, 2020. Thank you to everyone out there watching, whether it's on demand or live. I appreciate your viewership and support. If you enjoyed this video, please share it on social media, tell a friend. Let's go ahead and get started. I will be recapping AEW first, and then I will give my thoughts on the NXT Takeover special on USA Network. We kicked off AEW with a pre-taped Jake the Snake Roberts promo. Talked about his old line, how his history will not be his destiny. He said that whenever somebody steps into the ring with his guy, Lance Archer, it's done. He talked about what happened to Marco Stunt on last week's show. He said that Marco tried to man up, but he ended up being an idiot for getting in the ring with Archer. Then Jake wondered, will Cody actually try to beat Shawn Spears? What is Cody going to do? Will Cody turn out to be a man or a mouse? And he finished the promo by telling Cody to squeak up. We had the commentary team this week, which was Tony Schiavone and Chris Jericho. Jericho had some fun lines on this show, which I will get to here in a few minutes. We had our first match, which was a quick squash. Lance Archer defeating a guy, I believe his name was Alan Angels, but I could be wrong on that. Very quick match. Archer picking up the victory. And then we had a much longer match, which was Britt Baker, Dr. Britt Baker versus Hikaru Shida. Jericho was great on commentary here. He loved how Baker was punching Shida right in the face, saying that Baker's trying to do two things, trying to win the match and also get some new patients by throwing in those potatoes with those punches. He was then talking about how Britt knows how to look at the right camera, and that proves that she's a star. She knows what she's doing. However, Britt was doing it a little too much, focused on talking to the camera, and Shida attacked her. Never turn your back on your opponent. Lesson 101 there that Jericho did not bring up, although it really would not have mattered anyways because I don't think Britt could hear Jericho on commentary nonetheless. Later on in the match, Britt Baker got her nose busted up pretty badly. She tried to get the lockjaw on, Jericho was yelling at Britt Baker to punch Shida and get a receipt for being busted open. Shida managed to break out of the lockjaw and then hit a running knee strike to pick up the victory over Britt Baker. Caleb Jacobs, first super chat of the evening with $2.66. Going off topic here, says Black Heart versus Rebel Heart, one final beat. That is still to come here on the No DQ live recap. Thank you for that, Caleb. But just a shout out to everybody in the chat room. If you're going to send a super chat, please try to stick to the current topic as much as possible. I would appreciate that so I'm not bouncing back and forth. Right now, we're talking about AEW Dynamite. We had Kenny Omega and Michael Nakazawa backstage. They were talking about how maybe they could be known as the best friends. This led to the actual best friends, Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta, coming in, and they were not happy about this. And Taylor even said that they would be willing to put their name on the line. We had Excalibur in a video package recapping the AEW rankings. We had a video package of Jake Hager versus Jon Moxley, talk about Hager and his Bellator success. and all that stuff, and interviews with both Hager and Moxley. We had Cody Rhodes and Shawn Spears in a video package talking about the TNT title. A lot of video packages on this AEW Dynamite, obviously due to the current circumstances. Cody said that everyone is lucky to be in the tournament, and Spears talked about how the tournament can put him on the map. There was a recap of the feud between Cody and Shawn Spears going back to Fyter Fest when the steel chair shot to the head was heard around the world. Of course, Shawn Spears hitting Cody in the head with the steel chair, and that generated some controversy back then. Steel chair shot to the head, of course, being the reason why. We had the Best Friends with Orange Cassidy at ringside versus Kenny Omega and Michael Nakazawa. We had Orange Cassidy getting in the ring, getting involved. He wanted to hug the Best Friends, but Best Friends got pulled out of the ring. Omega and Nakazawa tried to go in for the hug, but Orange Cassidy sidestepped them, not taking the hug, not accepting it. Nakazawa would then grab Orange Cassidy's glasses and throw them away. But of course, Orange Cassidy's always prepared for a situation. He pulled out a brand new pair of glasses. And then Nakazawa had his own gimmick, which is the underwear, I guess you would say, under his tights, the Speedos. He pulled out the Speedos and started shoving them in the faces of the Best Friends, which led to Chris Jericho using that classic Vince McMahon line from Beyond the Mat. Vince is watching Darren Drozdov puke, and Vince is like, he's gonna puke. Jericho used that line. That was great. By the way, that's on Netflix for any of you that have never seen Beyond the Mat, or maybe you're interested in watching it again. It is on Netflix. Very interesting documentary, worth checking out. Best Friends came back, though. They worked together, double team. They pinned Nakazawa. Omega was unable to make the save in time. So it looks like, for the time being, Best Friends get to keep their name. We had a Brody Lee segment. He was arriving to, I guess, the venue in his car. He was wearing his suit and tie. He talked about how perception is reality. There were 3 Dark Order members there, but only one of them was dressed up nicely. And Brody talked about how the other 2 need to get their acts together. However, the one guy that dressed appropriately, there's an opportunity for him. And Brody walked away with that one Dark Order member. We had a Britt Baker backstage promo. She was all busted up from earlier. She said that Shida better be thankful that her teeth were not messed with, although it really wouldn't matter anyways because Britt Baker is a dentist after all. She said that Shida is the dirtiest wrestler she's ever been in the ring with. Good promo here from Britt. Then we had another video package. We had 2-on-1 show for Jon Moxley versus Jake Hager. Moxley said he's going to F him up on next week's show. Of course, next week, the AEW World Title match, which has been taped already, for those of you wondering. It is in the can, and it will be on next week's show. We had a broken Matt Hardy promo at his compound. He responded to the whole of the ass Chris Jericho and what happened last week with Vanguard 1 showing up at Jericho's jacuzzi. Hardy cut a promo on the Inner Circle, said Sammy Guevara is a false god, pride and powerful, they're loud and devourable because Matt Hardy loves Puerto Rican food and he cannot wait to feast on them. And then he referred to Jake Hager as Jakenstein. He said he cannot allow the Inner Circle to take over AEW. He said the Inner Circle will become a dumpster fire and the Elite shall delete them. He then challenged Jericho to come to the Hardy compound for what he called the Elite deletion. Looks like we're going to get one of these types of matches in AEW, which is fine. Under the current circumstances, this is as good a time as ever to do it. We had Brody Lee versus Lee Johnson. A lot of people named Lee on this show. Well, just two, actually. Brody Lee picked up a quick victory with the discus lariat. Not much to say about it. Showcase match for Brody. We had a video package for Cody Lee versus Shawn Spears. And then we had the match. Cody was referred to as Cody Exotic. Of course, a reference to Joe Exotic, the Tiger King. Cody missed a moonsault pretty early in the match, and then Spears hit a pile driver, got a near fall. We had a commercial break. After the commercial, Shawn Spears continued to beat down Cody, gave him a suplex onto a guardrail that he set up on the outside of the ring. Then Tony Schiavone said we were going to another commercial break. We were going to have a timeout, but we would be right back. And then about 2 seconds later, he said, "We're back, everybody." So I guess AEW, little production botch here, missed the commercial break timing, forgot to insert a commercial or whatever. Match continued, and then after a couple minutes, we finally had our commercial break. Jericho continued to take shots at Cody, even mentioning Cody's mom wanting to get payback on her for slapping him. And also he called Billy Gunn a fanboy. Billy Gunn was cheering on Cody at ringside. There was one guy that was helping out Cody at one point during the match. Then back in the ring, Shawn Spears managed to get the advantage again, and he had set up a table on the outside. He gave Cody a DVD from inside the ring all the way to the outside through the table. Cody somehow managed to get back into the ring at the referee's 9 count. And then Cody came back and then put the figure 4 on Spears. Spears did not tap out, but rather was counted out 1, 2, 3 via the figure 4. Cody Rhodes advances, not really surprised by this one, to the next round of the TNT tournament, the semifinal. This was the first quarterfinal match of the tournament. So overall, pretty good show here from AEW. I mean, I wouldn't say it was one of the top tier AEW shows, and it was more promo and video package oriented than usual. But again, that's because of the circumstances. It was a fine show. Let's move on here to the NXT show, which was probably a bit more newsworthy because this was being billed as a takeover special on USA Network. 2 matches that were scheduled to air at Takeover took place here. We had Mauro Ranallo back on commentary this week. Thank goodness for this. If it was Sam Roberts, man, I'm just glad we got Ranallo back for this. And he had another Joe Exotic reference, just like we had one on AEW. Actually, it was a reference to Carol Baskin, the person who runs the Big Cat Rescue in Florida, Joe Exotic's arch nemesis. Ranallo said, "Hello to all you cats and kittens," which is her signature opening. So anyways, we had the ladder match between the NXT women. Dakota Kai got teamed up on early by all the baby faces, Tegan Nox, Mia Yim, and Candice LeRae. Then later on in the match, we had Nox and Kai going at it for a while. But then Kai's bodyguard, Raquel Gonzalez, ended up getting involved. She tipped over a ladder that Io Shirai was on. Io then managed to do a dive onto everybody else on the outside. And Robert Stone was out there with Chelsea Green, but he was getting intimidated by Raquel. Raquel was attempting to stop Dakota Kai from climbing up a ladder. Stone was out there trying to help out Green, getting her back in the match. And at one point, he tried to climb the ladder for her when she was struggling. Raquel Gonzalez did get taken out of the equation eventually. Mia Yim power bombed her through a table with the help from Tegan Knox. But then Tegan Knox was knocked off the apron through a ladder by Dakota Kai. We had Candice LeRae and Io Shirai climbing up the ladder, and Candice got knocked off the ladder and fell onto one of the ladders that was set up below. Ladder did not break. She just crashed and burned onto that ladder, and then Io Shirai managed to grab the briefcase or contract, whatever you want to call it, and she is now the new number one contender for Charlotte Flair and the NXT Women's Championship. And once again, if you guys are enjoying this video, please share it. Share a link to this video on social media. Tell a friend. We got more to come here with this recap. We had Finn Balor and Imperium involved in a recap of their storyline, and footage from an NXT UK match was shown with Balor picking up a victory over, I think it was Wolf, one of the Imperium members. And then we had Balor cutting a promo, basically setting his sights on the NXT UK title. Then we had the new tag team managed by Malcolm Bivens, the Indus Share, that's the name of the team, against Everwise, basically an enhancement tag team. Although it was a little bit more of a fight. Well, not really. I mean, the new team, Malcolm Bivens' team, pretty much dominated, but wasn't like a very quick 30-second squash. It was more like a 2-minute squash match. We had a Killer Cross video package. TikTok, he is on his way. We had an Adam Cole promo from his backyard once again. I guess maybe he recorded like 3 or 4 weeks worth of backyard promos. He said that Velveteen Dream got lucky, but lightning will not strike twice. He said that Dream doesn't deserve a shot at his title, but maybe one day Adam Cole will give him an opportunity and decide to destroy a spotlight, and there will be nothing that the Dream will be able to do about it. It was announced that we will have a Cruiserweight title tournament starting next week to determine an interim Cruiserweight champion. Jordan Devlin, I think he was stripped, but I'm not entirely sure. My thought was that they're doing something similar to UFC where an interim champion is being crowned, and then Devlin, once the travel ban is lifted and he comes back to the United States, there'll be a champion versus champion match. Maybe they'll do something like Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels. They'll have the 2 championships on the ladder or something like that. But yeah, they're crowning an interim Cruiserweight champion because Devlin's in the UK and there's a travel ban, of course, as you all know. We had a recap of Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley from WrestleMania. We had the Charlotte promo, which I believe they already showed on Raw, shown again. And then we had brief footage of Rhea Ripley backstage after WrestleMania. She was very distraught about her loss at WrestleMania, as you would imagine. Then we had the main event, which essentially took up the entire second hour of NXT. We had a lot of commercials for this match. Very long match here. Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, the final battle between these two. One final beat as they've been hyping it up. Candice LeRae, as Gargano arrived to the building, she gave him something that was in a package, and then she drove off in their car. Triple H was sitting in the ring, and he just told them that he doesn't care what they do to each other, but once this match is done, it is done. This is it. The referee came into the ring. The match was officially started. There was no commentary for this match. It was shot in cinematic style, but not with all the music and all the over-the-top special effects like Undertaker versus AJ Styles. So in this sense, it felt more realistic, even though it was shot in the cinematic style. And we had no commentary, so it was just the guys fighting. There was trash talking. But other than that, it was pretty quiet, other than the bumps and the sounds of them in pain and agony from beating each other up. They fought all over the place. Gargano got a pretty hot start. He was trash talking, saying that he was expecting more from Ciampa. Gargano was using a steel chair pretty early on in the match. And then Ciampa managed to grab the chair, wrap it around Gargano's throat, and threw him into the post. Then Ciampa got the crutch, started using the crutch on Gargano, and then the fight spilled to the outside of the ring. They ended up on top of the production truck, which was similar to Edge and Randy Orton, although we did have some drones filming them as they fought on the production truck. We had another commercial break. They ended up fighting back to the ringside area, or just back into the building at Full Sail University. Gargano jumped off of this platform, sending Ciampa crashing through a table. And then they fought on the apron. They started climbing up to the second rope. And then Ciampa did the air raid crash all the way to the floor. And you could tell that this was an edit. They probably landed on a crash pad and then just did an edit and did a second take of it. But it still looked pretty cool, much like when Morrison went off the ladder at WrestleMania and clearly landed on a crash pad, but they edited it so you didn't notice the crash pad. Gargano then managed to get the crutch again and started destroying Gargano, but then Gargano came back again, called Ciampa a failure as a man and as a husband. Ciampa started laughing at him. Gargano went for the final blow with the crutch shot, but then Ciampa managed to dodge that. He gained control again, started beating the crap out of Gargano with the crutch. He called Gargano a piece of shit. That was censored, by the way. We had another commercial break. When we came back, the two of them managed to... This was something like out of a video game where they each had the crutch and they managed to knock themselves out with the crutches at the same time. And that's when Candice LeRae arrived back into the arena. She started yelling at Gargano, and then she turned around to Ciampa and yelled at him, saying that she hates her husband now because of this feud. This feud has gotten so intense that it has had a bad effect on their marriage. She then turned back around and gave her husband a low blow, knocking him down, and then she left the ring. And this was Ciampa's chance to finish off Gargano. He picked him up, and then he was going to put on the final touch, the finishing touch, when all of a sudden, Candice got back into the ring and gave Ciampa a low blow. It was then revealed that Gargano was wearing a cup. That is what Candice gave him earlier on before the match started in the package. It was a cup. So Johnny Gargano is officially smarter than AJ Styles because he actually knew to wear a cup for this match as part of this master plan. Poor Ciampa getting outsmarted here by a heel. But you know what? Whatever. Gargano then used Ciampa's own move on him to score the pinfall victory. He did it on the exposed board. Basically, Ciampa earlier in the match had just torn the ring apart like he has done in some of their other matches. So Gargano wins, and it looks like Candice LeRae has gone heel with her husband, which is actually something that I've talked about in the past, the idea of her turning heel and joining up with him. So I do like it, but at the same time, part of me is like, I hate when baby faces get outsmarted, especially when it's the final match of the feud, although for part of the feud, Gargano was a babyface. So whatever. I mean, it was fine. Hell of a match here between these guys. They just beat the crap out of each other, and I like that it was different different from the previous cinematic matches. And yeah, there were a lot of commercials, which kind of hurt the momentum a bit, in my opinion. But overall, it was very fun to watch. I got to say, though, AEW had a really solid show as well. I think the match with Shida and Britt Baker was really solid. And I was torn between that and the ladder match. I was definitely going back and forth. My attention was divided. Candice attacked Gargano because it was all part of the plan. Gargano was wearing a cup, and Ciampa thought that she was betraying her husband when really it was all part of a plan to set up Ciampa. And then, of course, the main event, Shawn Spears and Cody had a really solid match too. Although I did feel like Cody winning was a bit predictable, so I was more focused on the NXT match. But yeah, if NXT does not win the viewership numbers this week, then I don't know what they can do to beat NXT at this point. Both shows were really solid. Again, I'm not going to do letter grades under the current circumstances, but definitely an eventful night from both shows, and looking forward to seeing what happens next. Looking forward to AEW, what's next with Jericho and Hardy, and seeing how the tournament plays out. And with NXT, curious to see what's happening next with Johnny Gargano, what's next for him, what's next for Ciampa. Will one of them get called up now that their feud is apparently over for good? So leave a comment on YouTube. Let me know what you guys thought about both shows. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. I appreciate it. Make sure you stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest, and I will see you guys next time.